Hey gangsters, what's happening? It's Will again, and I'm here to do another quick update on my entry into Tactical Jackalope's top speed contest. I've got actually quite a bit of progress now, a week later after my last update. So I'm going to go through some of that and maybe even put some photographs in at the end, kind of do a little slideshow and make it a little easier to see some of the things I've done. But anyway, here's where I am. I finally have the fuselage all buttoned up and really pretty much completely done. And there's one thing you'll probably notice about it, and that is the fact that the nose is all put together with no engine in it. Maybe you can see that a little bit closer right there. I've also added some structure in there to keep it stiff later on when I'm doing, all my sanding and painting work. I know you guys are probably thinking, why did he leave the beautiful Tamiya engine out of the model? I know that's like sacrilege. It's funny when I posted the picture on in the Facebook group of the seat with the HGW micro textile seat belts, it got like 100 likes. And when I asked if anybody knew if it was possible to assemble this kit without the engine, it didn't get even one like, and nobody replied. So it's kind of like, that's heresy. You're just not supposed to do that. But anyway, you can do it. I didn't even know if it was possible to assemble it, like I said, without the engine. But you can do it. It's not a big deal. And now I've got that beautiful engine, which is a model kit unto itself, to use somewhere else down the road in a diorama or something like that. So I'm pretty happy with that. I just didn't have the time. I know myself, and I can't resist trying to add detail, and I knew that if I got into building the engine in here, that it would end up being too much. And the last thing I want to do after announcing the grandiose project, as Andy keeps putting it, is not finish on time. So just trying to do the smart thing. But anyway, everything is in. One thing that I asked some people on Facebook what they thought about using Tamiya extra thin to put a cockpit windshield or canopy in. And I got a lot of various responses, all of which made sense. But I went ahead and did it on this one because, as you know, there's a lot of fuselage molded into the bottom portion of the cockpit here. And so that seam is fairly far from anything that's got to remain clear. And I like parts that are welded together whenever possible, so I felt like that was a good strategy, and seems to be fine. The other thing with the windshield that was not fine, that I did not discover until I went to start masking it, is that the Tamiya masks, which are very nicely marked and made of a very nice masking material, aren't die cut. So, unlike an Edward mask, which I would have gotten if I'd realized that when I still had time, you can't just peel them off the sheet and place them. You've got to cut them out. And if I'm gonna have to cut, I need a guide like the edge of the canopy frame, and so it just didn't work for me, and I ended up going back to my standby of bare metal foil, which has not failed me yet. So hopefully these canopy frames will look good. They are also masked on the inside because I wanted some black paint in there just to make sure that there was no reflection that gave away the fact that the inside of the canopy wasn't painted. So if it was 148, I would have just sprayed the outside with the interior color and gone down the road, but I'm not taking any chances on this deal. Also have the next big phase done, and that's the wing. And you can see that even though I'm kind of taking it easy today, that what I've been doing is filling in the gun ports. I know they are so beautifully molded in that I hated to grind them off, but gotta do what you gotta do. So it is what it is. I also have got the downstairs cockpit installed and added in some detail. I don't know if you'll be able to see it there or not, but I put in some wiring and a little bit of some fuel lines or hydraulic lines or whatever they are. I gotta say though, this is getting me to a point where I have to question a little bit the way Tamiya engineered this kit. I understand that they want you to be able to, have working parts and the idea that you can reconfigure it after it's built to be either in flight or on its landing gear. But I gotta ask, who really does that? Almost nobody even builds them in the in-flight gear-up mode to start with, and I can't imagine ever wanting to change it later. So I kind of feel like that making the kit where you can do either or after the fact maybe isn't really that great given the sacrifices that you have to make. And one of them is this piece right here that you can't put in the wing until after you've attached the landing gear oleos with the screw, because it screws in right here. And that's going to present a little bit of a problem for me in terms of painting, obviously. The other thing is the inside landing gear doors. The way that they've configured that is it's essentially the left and the right halves are molded together with the bulkhead that goes through the center of the gear bay. And I understand why they did that. There's not a lot of real estate there on a Mustang. It's got this thin spine right here. And that's all that's between those two doors. But the problem is that if you want that bulkhead in there so that you can do some detailing, because there are plenty of lines and wires that connect to that center bulkhead, you can't do it, because unless you're going to do some crazy masking and go to a lot of trouble, there's no way to have those gear doors on there sticking straight out and do your paint later on, especially not the way that I'm painting this thing. So I don't know. I'm a little bit at odds with Tamiya over that. It is what it is, and maybe on the next Mustang I'll figure a way around that, because I'm sure it can be done. But for this one, I settled for putting in the detail that I could right now, and hoping, because I've got all these cross members drilled, that after it's all said and done, I'll be able to go back in and maybe add a few more bits of detail in there. So I don't know. We'll see. I may not even have time. But anyway, that's the deal. And here I am also at the point where I've got to start making some decisions about how to handle things like the flaps, because they're all separate and they're all built up and ready to install, but I have to think about that strategically in terms of my paint work and my finishing work, because I'm not going to sand every single rivet off of this thing, but it is going to get some sanding, and dealing with movable control surfaces doesn't really work in that scenario, at least not for me. So that's my next bit, and kind of why I'm pausing today to give it some consideration, because I got to figure out what my strategy is going forward, and figure out how to handle some of those things. So anyway, that's the deal right now. I am pretty close to being able to attach the wing to the fuselage and then button up all the skins on the nose, and then it's going to be time for some all-clad microfiller primer, and that'll be my next update when I'm just about ready to go to my final paint, and that'll be my last update before the big reveal. So hopefully everything will continue to go smooth, and I'll see you guys in a week or two. All right? Thanks again for watching. Much love.